All right, now Smithfield Town Council Special Meeting, October 16, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you start us with prayer and pledge, please?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in a fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Beauregard? Here. Mr. Cristofaro?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Punchak?
Here.
Ms. Alves?
Here. All right. Renovations of North Smithfield Police Station. First one is discussion by council vote or other action. ECC proposals regarding construction management recommendation.
What is that stat? You hear that?
Is it okay online now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? All right, good. Good evening. Thanks for setting up this special meeting for us to present our findings from our CMAR evaluation process. Just to go back, typically, let me jump back. Typically, I do a project update on a monthly basis. This is basically the update. There's been no changes to the other parts of the design or any of that. It's really just the construction management process right now. So, CJ, can you go to the next slide? So as we talked about in the past, we went with the construction management at risk process. That process, as we talked before, we set up a, we went out for RFQ and P, so a request for proposal and pricing, a request for qualifications and proposal. We received several of those months ago. Those were evaluated. And we were able to narrow that down. We set up a subcommittee for the evaluation. It's made up of 6 members, members from both representing town council, the town, the OPM firm, and as well as the design firm. The process is a 3-stage or 3-step process. The first in the evaluation process was the review of the technical proposals, which was the review, completion of the statements, evaluation of the information provided, and then also reference checks, which were all completed. Step 2 was the CM firm interviews. So 4 firms that submitted came in, and we actually had our subcommittee attend and had those interviews at the police station. Part of those interviews was the CM firm presented their company, their management, personnel, and thank you. This means I put glasses on. Yeah, so they did those, all 4 firms did their presentations, and then we had a question and answer period where we had some set questions that was level across the board, so everyone had the same questions. And then the evaluations were based on the responses to those and the presentation from the CM. And the step 3 was the price proposal review. As we mentioned before, we did not get complete. We got estimates instead of actual price proposals. We got price proposals for the CM fees, which is their base fees. And then we also got estimates of construction cost. The CM fees obviously had general conditions in there. And then with all that information, we took those numbers and we leveled them out, which I have spreadsheets here, and we'll show you the final product. in a minute, but we take those and we level them out so that they're all in the same timelines, same durations of pre-construction management, as well as construction timelines. We level those out, and it kind of gives you a level playing field, and it tells you what those numbers would end up being. You want anything?
Madam President, may I ask one question?
Yes.
So when we say estimates, that's an estimate. It's not
The
definitive,
construction estimate is just an estimate.
just an
Yep,
estimate. Okay.
yep. The
But the
CM fees,
CM
the CM
fees
fees are
baked,
those,
okay.
yep.
Just one recommendation moving forward in the event that we do see a similar process or information in the future. It would be really helpful to see the timelines associated with each
Sure.
of these steps. You know, there have obviously been some delays, so I think it would just be helpful for us to be able to understand
Yep.
how long each of the steps took, just in the air of
Oh,
transparency.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, definitely, I
I can
can,
add that in for the next time.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
yep, absolutely. Did you want to add anything?
I don't really have to add anything other than just through this process, as you can see, it's an involved process. It took a little bit of time and a little bit of vetting. In terms of each company, we, as a team and as a committee, we were looking for sort of some criteria for a company that's qualified, that's able to do the job, that is a partner to this community, to this committee, to this group, that is eager to work and provide the expertise, the experience, the team. So we took all of that into consideration. We had 4 firms that submitted. All the qualifications were met by those firms, so no one was disqualified. Proposals were complete. All the proposals can be, we have them all public, so you can share proposals themselves. So technical proposals came in first, the interviews were second, and then the price proposals came in at the end of the interview. So we did not see the price prior to the interviews. This way we can actually make a decision based on firm's qualifications rather than the pricing, so that a fair process.
I don't mean to interrupt, CJ, I'm hearing from some of the viewers that they're static. Okay.
Oh, if I speak, do I need to?
Yes.
Okay. We can
Okay,
actually.
it's gone. It's gone,
I thought-
And then of the 4
Yeah, we can
firms,
talk about the.
of the 4 firms that
On the next
essentially,
slide.
essentially made it to the final review, how many of those firms submitted their bid in the second round? Because I know we went out again for additional bids.
So we didn't go out again. We
Okay.
extended the time period to allow for them to submit. We didn't receive, they're not bids, they're proposals, but
Yep.
like, they didn't receive, it's not like we received documents and then we extended time for them
Okay.
to come back with additional information.
Okay.
We were asked questions from, different firms, asking, can you allow for like extension of schedule, can this be, so due to the amount of questions we received, and when we issued the last addendum, we asked for extension of
Okay.
time we allowed them to, like, extra 2 weeks to submit their documents, but we didn't receive documents and then
Okay.
waited and then received more.
Understood.
So I don't remember how many firms exactly held the documents. I think it was upwards 9. I don't want to lie. I don't know.
No, it
Yeah.
was like 12.
12.
Yep.
But they were all CMs. I need to look. I don't remember.
Yeah,
now.
there's probably a mix there.
Okay, well,
So,
I just,
out of those,
for my
we have
knowledge.
4 submissions, and those 4, if we can go
Yep.
to the next slide.
Thank you, CJ.
All 4, if it was 6 or 7, we would shortlist, but because they were all 4 and submissions were complete, we basically invited all 4 to the interviews, and also solicited price from all 4. And the 4 are Gilbane, Parasol, Downs, and Debon. And, I don't know if Brandon, you want to go through?
Yeah, I can run through these.
Okay.
quickly. Going through their technical proposals.
Actually,
As
do
a
we
review.
need to wait
Oh, yeah.
for the static?
Are we all
to-
set, CJ?
I think it's
It's
gone.
going over clear, it's just, it's the adequate, so.
Okay. There's enough people.
So we're good to go? Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Nope, you know, you're, part of the technical proposal review, this is some of our highlights of all four of the submissions. Gilbane Building Company, yeah, great CM experience, very deep reach back because it's a big company. Strong project team, positive references, and project was estimated in-house, and they had the lowest CM fees. Parasol Builders, another great CM experience. Experienced project team, very positive references. And their estimate for construction cost was actually done by, they utilized subcontractors to input. And they estimated about 75% of that estimate was utilized by subcontractors. So it's more accurate than the others.
To add to, sorry, I'm
Yep, no,
interrupting,
jump in.
but the difference when firms estimate, typically they have their in-house estimators, and the in-house estimators would estimate the job, but to really know what the price of, and they estimate through like a software, there is a software that they utilize. They take takeoffs and everything, but to really know the true market value, they do go out to subcontractors like the plumbers, the mechanical, electrical subcontractors, and confirm that their assumptions are okay, higher, lower. So the estimate is most valuable and most real would be if they actually did the in-house estimating, but also went out and looked at what the prices, what the cost per square foot or whatnot are in the industry right now. The estimate was based on the construction document set, which is the most complete set. So it's maybe not 100% final, maybe some tweaks will be made, but it is the final set of the three, the schematic design, design development, and construction documents. So we thought that the level of estimate accuracy was done by Parasol versus others, because Gilbane did it in-house, Downs did a mix, I think, we don't know, but I think so. And then Devon, there was a lot of, they kind of backed into it from 6 million, so we weren't sure if it was actual. They came in with a different approach, we can talk about it a little bit, but they came in with it like you have 6 million, you go backwards, rather than actual going and looking at what's in the set and seeing, telling us that, hey, it's not 6, maybe it's 6.6, maybe it's 7. So there is a little bit of a spread in cost based on those estimates. We'll go through it in a minute. But prior to going to the estimates, I think we wanted to first interview them, talk to them, and also highlight some of the things that are not cost related, but are more performance related and reference related and experience related. Now, Downs had the most public safety house police station experience. They are based, I believe, in Connecticut. They did have great references. They have a good, strong team. Their cost values were a little bit higher than Parasol's. And then Devon, that I think lacked the construction management experiences expertise. They did have one project they presented, but we didn't think that was, the depths and the experience for what construction managers should have, rather than in comparison to others, although there also were a very good presentation.
Sure, absolutely.
Next slide.
should end.
Yeah, because the sum isn't on this page, it's 1350, I think it's just, so on your price rating, the Gilbane row has the evaluator numbers as opposed to having the actual numbers. We have the final number here, but it's just, it looks like somehow it got,
Okay, we can adjust that. Oh, yeah.
What is it?
There's some of this, the sound, got everything I can do, so,
So just
just
continue.
how I would continue, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We can continue? or not?
Yeah, we can continue.
Okay. CJ, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, this next slide here is the evaluation forms. These are the totals. You have the full sheet there that has all the evaluation numbers. Are they-
See, we're missing Gilbane. It's like, yeah,
You know what?
we'll adjust
I'll
it.
adjust that.
Yeah.
I can send that back out. So that's the sheet that you have is missing one of the contractors on there. I'll get that back out to everyone. But as you can see here, these were the criterias that we rated them on. Qualification package rating. That's basically going through the entire package and rating them on their submissions. That's project teams, references, any other technical information that's in that proposal. As you see on that one, excuse me, Gilbane actually came out with the highest score on that, with Parasol right behind them. The next one is the interview ratings. So during that interview, all of the subcommittee members had their form in front of them, and they, as the interviewee did their presentation and answered the questions that we posed them, the subcommittee would write down their notes and then score them on a 1 to 5 basis. And as you see on that one, Parasol actually came out the highest, with Downs not too far behind them. The last is the price proposal evaluation. This is based off of all of the CM fees and their estimates, based on their general condition fees, and then leveling the cost out. And as you can see there, Parasol came out highest, with Gilbane and Downs right behind them. And then the total ratings on the right-hand side there shows you that without the price, Parasol, again, highest, Gilbane behind them, and then with price, Parasol also the highest on that one, with Gilbane pretty far behind them.
I think, all the firms are qualified to do the job. They could do the job for sure. There are some weaknesses, some strengths, some ups and downs. We were looking for, as a team, for the company that could fit the best, be a partner able to work and able to sort of price, but also be eager to work and have the capability and ability to deliver and to kind of be part of this team and part of this town. I think at the end of the day, that's what matters, as well as the price. The price is important, which we will go through the price. I just want to caution everyone that, the fixed price items, will explain which they are, and then the total projection of the project cost is estimated based on the estimates they submitted. So it's not a hard bid, and those could potentially change once the buyout happens or if any scope changes. We don't, so there is a level of confidence in the price, but just, it's not like a hard bid when you open it and then you sign a contract based on that value. Is there any questions from anyone so far?
And just as a, kind of go back onto the evaluations, these were done individually. Everyone had their, you know, the forms were sent out to everyone, they all did them individually. I totaled up their numbers, so it's really, you know, broad breadth of people's knowledge and, yes.
Madam President, one question. So in comparing Gilbane and PowerCell, based on qualifications, I'm looking at some of your bullets on the previous slide, and it looks like really, aside from the subcontractor input in comparison to Gilbane, you highlighted two deep backreach capabilities that Gilbane has in comparison. Can you, I don't know anything about construction, so can you explain to me what you meant by that?
Yeah.
They're a
so-
large corporation.
Very large
Okay.
corporation.
Okay.
So
Got it.
they, you know, they're a very large corporation. So there are pluses and minuses to a large corporation versus a more like a smaller local
Right.
company. Local, smaller companies can pivot better, right? They may be more flexible in terms of how the decisions are made. You might be getting maybe more senior, I don't want to say senior, it's not proper, more experienced team that is like, you know, has been with the company for longer, for instance. And I'm not saying it's the case, I'm just saying that is kind of like comparisons, right?
Okay.
A corporation is more like a machine, it's a bigger one. And I personally worked for both small and large companies, and there's a lot of layers of approvals, there are a lot of layers of sort of administration work, but also because it's a large corporation, they can, if one person leaves, another one comes, right? If they need, I don't know, like they may have bigger companies that they work with, maybe they have better relationships with those companies. Like backreach means
Okay.
like they have maybe more estimators, larger staffing,
Okay,
you know, stuff like that.
okay, thank you.
It doesn't mean that the other companies don't have the backreach. I know that they also do. It's just kind of like the highlights of,
Yep.
you know, corporation versus, I think
Okay.
Downs and Parasol, they're a similar kind of type of company versus Gilbane is like a large corporation, and then Devon is a very smaller.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the evaluation?
Okay, next.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
really blurry, but.
It's okay, everyone has them.
Yep. So these are two of our tabulation sheets, which you also have the full copies of them. These two here are rolled up, so a lot of the in-between lines are hidden, so. So these are set up as submitted, so this is what the CM firm submitted in their proposal. This is based on, the first one is based on their CM fees as they submitted, and all the costs associated with that, their general conditions, and their estimates. As you can see there, and these are based on the $6 million.
As submitted, yes. So
yeah.
as submitted was
Yep.
based on 6 million even.
Yep.
So the GMP, which is guaranteed maximum price, which is their ultimate contract, would be assumed at 6 million, which means that obviously cost of work is lower.
Is lower.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Because we gave them certain criteria so that we can kind of, everybody can make certain assumptions. Like, so the criteria was 12 months construction duration, $6 million project. But do the estimate and tell us if it is or if it isn't. So that was kind of the task, or the ask.
Yep.
Where'd you get that number from? The
6 million? We've been, so that's been sort of, I guess I would defer to, It's been discussed with us, and I believe the direction and the estimate, the number that the architect was working with, and the estimates that were coming in for SDs, CDs, SDs, DDs, and CDs from the construction itself. From the design, were set to be at. I guess the target was to be as close as possible to 6 million. I would ask Mr. Gibbs maybe to speak to it. I apologize if I don't know that background.
Yep.
Okay. I apologize for that. I should know the answer, but we've been talking about 6 million since we were brought on board. I should have probably known the answer to that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, excuse me, the only reason why I asked is where that number came from is because when the architect, what's that company? Signal Works was here, they went in, that number was never, they gave us an estimate of about $4 million. They give us
It's like 4.4.
2.1 to 4.5 million, depending on how far we wanted to go. Now all of a sudden we're at 6 million. That predates you, but when they were here that first meeting with, they went through the building and everything, their estimate, so now we're talking about 40% more.
So that was based off of their initial site visit.
Yeah. Well,
That was-
they
Probably pulled square footage numbers.
How many years ago, or how much time ago was that? That was before our time, too.
Less than 2 years ago.
Less than 2 years ago. The latest estimate that we have seen with all the breakouts and add alternates was close to 6.
Yeah, it's the first I'm hearing that number.
Okay. We can, so it doesn't matter even that so much right now, I think, but we can totally investigate a little more and report back on the
It's only
history
because now,
of
because what they
that.
told us, now it's over a 40% jump in what the architect said. So is that a mistake on his part?
I would need to go back
Yeah,
and look
I
into
guess
it. I
that
can't,
was
I can't
based
answer this
on-
question right now. I wouldn't be able to answer it right now. I don't know if it's a mistake because I don't know what they estimated.
Yeah.
So I would need to see what they estimated or what the assumptions were at that time, 2 years ago, because we have a construction document set that was estimated. Design development set was estimated by the estimator, and that just set was estimated closer to 6. Now, that same set was estimated by these CMs. And if you can see what you're seeing on the,
Oh, it is what it is, I know, but I'm
Right.
saying.
it's a little even
It's a
higher.
big jump. It's over 40% jump.
Yeah, we'll have to look in to see what that original estimate was.
Yeah, if you can
Yes.
ask Signal Works
Yeah.
what their last proposal was with all the add alternates, maybe it was like the whole project, I can't, because I know there was quite a few add alternates we could have done.
Yep.
So maybe, just want to see what that page was.
So I have that in
Unfortunately, I
front
don't
of
have
me.
it. You do?
Yep. The full building renovation, that's inclusive of all the add alternates, came to 9.4 million.
So
That's-
And then
40% less.
That's what, yeah.
From Signal Works?
that was, I don't believe you voted on that option. That was all in with the add alternates.
Yeah, that was total.
And
right?
without
Yep,
add
total.
alternates should have been closer to 6.
Without add ultimate, no reno, base scope 4.4. Safe scope was 3.5. And then the add alternates were 1.7.
Yeah, so that would get the 4.something, 1.7, that would get us.
Yeah, because in October of 2024, Signal Works came before the council, and they said it was, the cost estimated would be between 2.7 and 4.5 million, to be funded by grants and town reserves.
But we don't know which piece that was, so there was many different options of. this is
When
the-
was it again?
I can share this with
October?
the
In
town
October
council.
of 2024. So it's a year ago.
But did the 6 million also take into consideration the CMAR, budget as well?
So when we, okay, So when we gave them the $6 million mark, that would have been inclusive of all of their fees, markups, everything. It would be the basically cost of the GMP of their contract. Not including soft costs, not including anything that's above their contract. So that they can sort of base their assumptions on that. That was, and I'll find out exactly where the number comes from. However, when they were estimating the job, which is the next page, which I think is the most important one to be talked about, that's, where is it? Level, the one that said level, okay? That one kind of brings in what them and the estimators and the subcontractors, when they took that construction document set, what that set would cost, what the scope would cost. And that is taken into consideration their estimate that they did. And you can see that those values down below, like when you go to, what is it? That's without. So without the add alternates, first page, this first page that says level, that's what they saw the project would be. So Parasol's would be 6.2 million. Gilbane's would be closer to 8.4, so 839. Downs saw this as 7.18, and Dubon said it's 5.4, but again, I think they backed into a number, so they didn't really estimate it. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't want to make that assumption. They didn't say that. That's what they submitted. Now, that is the scope as it has been presented, as it has been developed, to the extent without add alternates, and then with add alternates on the second page, the cost would go up based on how they saw it. So you can see that Gilbane's would go up to 12 because their initial base cost is actually pretty high. How they estimated the job, Parasol's is 7.7, Downs is around, it's 9, and one is 6.3. We also just added 15% soft costs. It's just kind of like a base number just to see what it might be at the end with the project cost if these estimates were to be true. Not true, but to be actual bids. So that's how we compared them with the drawing set that we received from the architect, who's not here, so we can't ask questions, but we can make sure that they're here next time. And taken into consideration the scopes and the work that was done. The purpose of, I think, this meeting is more to evaluate and recommend a construction manager, not so much to talk about budget. I think budget requires another, probably a conversation and a little bit of work. But they were given a task, they were given the same set, they were given the same parameters, and this is what we came up with. They came up with, and this is what we are reporting back, and basically taking all of that into consideration. We came up with a recommendation for a construction manager. I know we can't vote today, but we can we talk about the recommendation, or do we need to?
Yeah, you can give us a recommendation, we're just not gonna take a vote tonight.
Okay, so, we go to, I guess there is nothing on the next slide. Yeah, so based on taking all of that into consideration, listening in, evaluating the process, the team's recommendation was for Parasol. I guess, we can open it up to questions. Maybe looking into any questions we should come back with and bring to the table before the decision is made, since we can't make the decision anyways right now.
So So now, obviously, when you say no add alternates, obviously that's nothing, but when you say with, is that all the add alternates that Signal Works had given
All
in
of
there?
them. We did
All
not
of them?
differentiate for this purpose of this exercise. We can, because I know that some are more important than others. There's at least two that we think are worth considering before the total. So we can put another aspect and just pick the most important ones.
So you did include things like the elevator?
Yes.
Okay.
We included everything.
Okay.
For the purpose of this exercise, we put everything.
Okay. Because there was a considerable amount of conversations among the review committee as to what really is necessary and what isn't. So I think that's important to point out.
So by doing it this way, pricing it out this way, when we were originally speaking with Signal Works, we were saying, well, we could start with this base, and then as we had funding, we continue. Is that something we can still do under this pricing, or how
Yes.
does that work?
Yes, so the pricing really, so this is the process. The first initial step, like, for example, the company is Parasol, the Parasol gets awarded. You don't have to award them based on 12 million or any all-in number, because that is an estimate and that was just for the purposes of an exercise, and see what the actual might be. What we would recommend to award based on is pre-construction. That's the first and initial cost value. That is a set value. They came in with a proposal of 2 months pre-construction for 17,971, 17,971, sorry, which gets them on board and gets them going, gets them kind of becoming part of this conversation. Also, there is a contract for the project. It's not just it's the whole project, but the monetary value is just for pre-construction. Then when the GMP, and when, like, for example, let's say we go through the budgetary means constraints and something has to be reduced or changed, obviously they will have to bid a construction document set or a set of drawings, a scope of work that fits the budget, right? So the architect will need to do a little bit of work, and then they will come in with a new number that comes from the subcontractors and actual scope.
And we'll have that after the pre-construction phase.
It will happen during pre-construction.
So we'll have a hard number at that point.
The hard number is when you have a construction manager, that's the key to construction manager versus a hard general contractor, is that they will go to each trade, they will bid the documents out. They will receive bids, they will level the bids, they will go through the process with us, with the team members, with the group, and then we can come back and present it. So these are the bids, these are the values, and that's all open book and competitive. And then that's what sets the guaranteed maximum price, which they already did. So I did talk to Parasol a little bit, and and I don't want to speak to them because there's a person right there today. If the scope and the drawings did not change, there is a level of confidence that this estimate is a true estimate from what they presented. Of course, if the scope changes, say we have to reduce it, or we have to do something based on the budgetary constraints, then it will be different.
But just going off what the president said, if we did piecemeal it, it would cost more, because every time you mobilize, it would every mobilization, you'd have to charge extra money, because I would think that the job would become a lot more expensive, right?
It depends. So it does depend. For example, I'm working on a project right now that is a very phased project, and that can't be any more piecemeal than that. And they don't even know if they can do phase 4 yet, because they only currently have only phases 1 through 3 in terms of like financing. But in that case, you can what we're doing is that if the monies are available for that other phase or that work, right, during construction, let's say we started with something, and let's say we know the money will be available or might become available. While we're on site and working, they may be a minor, depending on schedule, right? So if your schedule is extended, of course, there is a little bit of a cost, but the increase is minor. The fee is the same, the fees are the same, everything is sort of the same. It's just the cost of work, the scope goes up. If you have to demobilize and come back and say install a sally port or something after everything is completed, and it's almost then becomes a whole new project, of course, right? So it depends when those alternates are implemented. For example, an elevator, it's a good example. If we don't decide to do an elevator now, and then 6 months down the road, the building is done, and then somebody says, let's do an elevator, well, you have to open it back up. Of course, it's more money. But if we decided in the next 2 months or 3 months when we're still kind of working, say the demolition is happening, and then you can still do it at a reasonable price that's within the range. I don't know if I answered your question.
Just to add to that, there is some like fire protection. That's not something you want to come back and do afterward. If you're tearing the interior apart, you want to be doing that at that time. You want to come back and have to do that.
Ideally, all those decisions should be made fairly soon.
Anyone have any other questions?
Of the 4 firms that you evaluated, have you worked with any of them in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
I worked personally with Parasol, Gilbane. I never worked with Downs as a CM. I know that they have a higher presence as an OPM in the state. So, but I do know they're a very respected CM in Connecticut. I think most of their projects. I don't know if they have. They might have projects here. So they do have a lot of similar projects for sure. I have a very extensive experience with both Gilbane and Parasol.
Okay. Thank you.
I think Javon, I did work with them, like they were a masonry sub, so I don't have direct experience with them. Okay.
And Devon has done previous work at the facilities.
They did, actually. That's probably, we didn't mention that. They do have experience with the building.
Is the chief, you might know this better than anybody, but because we're rehabbing and not building new, are we grandfathered in on some of the code compliant things that would be required in a new building that would not be required now in a rehab?
I think there's guidance on that with over 50% renovation of a building. I think you have to be up to code. But I like a lot of these ad alternates, I think are have to be's in the building. Fire protection, to me, is not an ad alternate.
Exactly.
And I think the building should be brought up to code. It's a public building. So, just my thoughts.
And as well as a sally port, I think that's a, that's a must-have.
Yeah, nationwide best practice, police stations have a sally port.
I believe the only item that was really sort of,
The elevator.
yes, I was going to say, I almost said elevator, but I just double checked. I think the elevator is really the one that's more, and again, it's accessibility, so, but more or less.
But that,
Okay.
but that issue of handicap accessibility can be addressed with an additional ramp,
Yes.
which is a lot cheaper than putting in a whole new elevator system.
Yeah, and that was brought up in 2016 or 17 when it was Studio Major did a public hearing on it when they first presented the first drawing with the elevator. It's a lot of cost that you can just have a handicap ramp and be well within the ADA. So that's a big savings. We don't need an elevator.
Not just the expense, but then you have the annual expense and all the other things that go along with it, you know?
Yeah.
You also see in some of the ad alternates, Parasol actually carried a lot of the site improvements in their base bid. The ad alternate for that line item for Parasol was the garage in the back. Dubon also carried a few of the pad alternates in their base price too.
Anyone have any other questions?
So you've been, obviously, whenever anybody's going through the building, you guys have been right there with them. What do you think of the building?
It's in rough shape. I don't know if I want to say it in the public meeting.
It needs to be work.
Right, and if I can, I just can read something from my notes, because this is Tecton's assessment of the building. And Tecton was the architect prior. It said Tecton completed a space needs assessment and feasibility study for the North Smithfield Police Department. This included a thorough evaluation of the existing building and grounds project space needs, suitability to the current site to support the program, and associated costs for implementation. After review of the existing facility and space needs, it was determined that the facility no longer suits the needs of the department. The building suffers from several deficiencies with regard to programmatic separation, I don't know what that is, building and site security, building code and ADA accessibility, officer health and safety, interior environmental quality, and prisoner health and safety. Bushy School is not and never can be code-compliant police station. If renovated, and who knows what they could find in the course of attempting a rehabilitation, concessions will have to be made to compliance and best practices.
Program separation, I think it means that it still has those like school aspects of things in there. Like if you go in, there is a police department, and then some areas are still kind of
Okay.
remaining.
It also
as-
refers to, administrative offices on this,
Oh, maybe
upstairs,
that's
and then
too,
all
yeah.
the rest of it's downstairs, so there's a lot of programmatic disconnect.
Okay, I understand. So
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on their assessment?
Tecton meant by that comment, because I walked around with the engineers and Tecton, is the elevations, all the slab elevations with the ceiling height in the first floor, the extra height on the second floor for HVAC and everything that needed to be connected. It just would have been a vast amount of work and money to get everything connected where it was a good flow in a workable station.
That's also a statement from an architect who's
Right.
looking to get themselves involved in an
22 million.
$18 million or $20 million project, so
Yeah.
you're gonna do everything you can to further your agenda there.
Yeah, it is a tired, old building,
No doubt about it.
but it is a structurally sound building on a good piece of land, well situated with full utilities. And quite frankly, I've seen a lot worse projects that have been redeveloped for very productive uses than that.
Where are you going with this question, may I ask?
Where I'm going, thank you for asking that. Where I'm going is I just have a concern about pouring a bunch of money into a building that's not gonna last.
I mean, I think if and Brian, you can chime in because you have more of an architectural experience than I do, but I think, any building that's structurally safe and sound can be rehabbed to be functional, right? Because it just depends how much you put into it. At what point it becomes not worth renovating and building new? New is always better, right? New is never going to be worse than renovated unless it's something extremely historic, right? So, but at the end of the day, it seems to me that the decision was made based on certain requirements and certain understanding, and that is before our time. I know a little bit about it, but also, yes, we could possibly look at the new building, but it looks like that decision has
Yeah.
been made already.
That ship is
That
sailed.
ship's
So,
And
would I like a new building? I always like a new building. It's so much easier. You come in, it's there. You
In the end, you invest this money based upon this program of work. You've got a high-quality asset that's
Right.
functionally good and quite frankly has at least a 40-plus year lifespan on it. It's no different if you did new construction. It's not as sexy, but it's a good building. It just needs a lot of love.
Yeah, the bones are good, it's structurally sound. It just needs a little more. This building was renovated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Town hall.
And and it looks great.
Same age, was great, right? It's got all the amenities,
It's a great building.
yeah.
I mean, there's different requirements for a police station than there are for a town
There is
hall.
definitely.
Yep, we're at this stage now. I mean, the
Yeah.
bond didn't pass, and now we're at this stage that we're, refurbishing the building, and, it's, as far as someone didn't know when they walk in when it's finished, it's gonna be a nice building, right? It's gonna be functional, and it's gonna be our police station.
The space will function better. The drawings we looked at, we did a peer review. It will definitely be, in all aspects, more functional, more usable, more environmentally friendly, accessible, air quality will be better, so it will be a good option, and that's the option we have, So do our best.
I know you will. You're doing a good job. You're doing your job.
Thank you for all your work on this. Can we talk a little bit about next steps?
Yeah.
Okay. What are our next steps?
All right,
let's jump in.
Because we're not voting and we have a chance to come back, I would suggest, I guess, we can certainly make some modifications. I would ask you to tell me if you want to see something more, if you need to, if you'd like more information. Obviously, a budget question, I don't know, I think it's a whole other conversation, because this concentrates on the award of the construction manager. I don't know if you have any concerns you want us to go back and address before next meeting, other than the major ones that we can change.
If I can chime in, I mean, to at least start that conversation, I think the next steps are that you're going to have to come back, and the council's going to have to make a vote to affirm the selection, in this case, of PURSUANT as the construction manager, and to authorize the execution of a contract to allow us to get to the pre-construction stage. Simultaneously, the council is going to have a conversation regarding capitalization of the project. How are you going to do that? I would assume that there is going to be a portion of this project that has to be bonded. You're not paying for this project 100% out of cash. And if that's true, then there are very specific timelines that you have to be able to go out to a bond ordinance so that we can get it to the voters in a special election in February, so they're ready to tee this project up in early spring. I mean, it's that simple. And the memorandum that I prepared is only to help sort of frame that conversation. But to me, those are the key steps. Agree with the selection, get it under contract, and agree to how you're going to fund the project.
I think we also need to understand the gap between the 4.4 and the 6. And not to say that we could get all of this done within 4.4, but I think it's our responsibility to be as transparent as possible with our constituents, and they need an understanding of what happened between 4.4 and 6, so then we can make, an informed decision.
I will go back, and now that I'm thinking about it more, I believe there was also something with, and I apologize, I wasn't prepared to answer the question, so I don't have the information. But it was something also that had to do with grants that are available and were received. I know that we went over this with SignalWorks as well in terms of the budget setup and the grants. So let me go back and do a little bit of work, and then we can come back with that. And I just don't have the answer.
What does that change, though? Like, I understand just getting an answer or getting the understanding of what, transpired, but what does it really change? You had an architect, and I think, have experienced that architects aren't the greatest of estimators, no disrespect to any architects listening, but that's not their job. And you've got numbers that are, have been put on the street. You got trade contractor input. These are people that are willing to do the work for the number that they've said. So there's a big difference there. So yeah, find out why it went from 4 to 6 or whatever, but if it's been a year, you've got the inflation part of it. But just like, even just in this, the questions that have come up over, different aspects of it. This is not, a science. This is more art, and, there's a lot of finessing that goes into this. And, all the contractors play different games with it to, get the result that they are desiring for what they anticipate the requirement for the project is. It's
I don't
just-
necessarily think that it will change our decision, but again, I think we owe that information to our constituents. Like, you, the previous town council voted with the understanding that it was 4.49, or so let's say 4.5, and we just need to understand what transpired. It probably is inflation. We saw that with Hallowell, right? So I just think we need to understand if inflation is the factor, then our constituents can rest a little bit more comfortably knowing
It
that.
could also just be development of documents if he
It very well could be.
did an estimate based on.
And it also may be, I don't know what was included in their estimate, if it's just hard construction costs, did they put in contractor profit and overhead bonding? Did they include a 15% contingency factor? Or they just do a hard construction number and just left all that off?
Yeah.
That amounts to a lot of
The
money.
number you said, though, was 9 million all in.
With adults.
But I don't
So
think that
we're
included
we're comparing a
OPM
number
or
of
construction
eight-
manager.
8.8 all
No.
in.
The,
Versus-
it was 4.4 was not all in.
But the 9 million all
The
in
9
number
million was
versus
all in.
8.8.
Yeah, but the
all in.
4.4 was very little work done.
Yeah.
Wasn't that just
Right.
like one?
When
So
you
you're not
say
even
all
comparing
in-
apples to apples.
When you say all in, it's construction or with soft costs and fees and architect fees for?
That I don't know, but I
Right,
kind
so
of
we
think
need
it
to find
was.
out.
Yeah, if we can, I'll have to look for, or
I can
you
send it.
have it, but if we can get Signal Warrants, just that page, just so we can see the ad alternates, so we can remember, because I know one was the fire system, one was the Sally Port.
It was these things, I remember the System 1, System 3, you
Yeah.
know, all these
Also
different
the
things.
site work too.
And
was a
I
big
think
issue.
there was also somewhere along the lines decisions that, okay, I've got 13 things, well, of these 13, we're gonna put 4 of them into the base bid, because they're not, optional, we have to do this, and I don't remember exactly what they were. But if you've got, you go from System 1 to 3 to 7, obviously there was a System 2 and a System 4.
I think one of the ad alternates alone was just the basement, wasn't it? Because then we said, well, we
Yes.
can't do the basement if we're gonna do the unless we do
There was some
that.
big things in there.
Yeah, like.
Yeah,
one-
that was phasing it out, so.
Yeah, but
uh,
like, that was an ad alternate, like the basement, and we said, well, if we're gonna do a Sally Port, we should do the basement at the same time, because why would you do?
Apples
No,
to
the
apples
basement
comparison is
the
what we're
basement they were
looking for, as
talking about
close as
is where
possible.
EMA and the old town council chambers, that side of the building, that basement. That didn't need to be touched until after. You're gonna do the intake section, the cell area, and the Sally Port's more important than the weight room and
Right.
extra storage. So that was phased out to what was more important to get done first to last.
Right, but
in
that
a
was
phasing,
an ad alternate.
right.
Yeah, so, yeah, if we
So
can just see
I-
that.
We'll get that estimate.
I just have a question for clarity, just as, I think the council needs to know this as well as everybody else. So let's just say if we move forward to the next step, company is chosen, the pre-construction cost is approved, that starts to be worked on. Will there be an accurate number with contingency, management, soft cost, FFE in the bricks and mortar? So the council will have a better guidance as to what amount of money they need to build the building?
Right, yeah, well, yes. Do you mean, so you're talking about an old budget, right? The whole.
Yeah, because
project
these,
budget.
like David said, I agree with him, this is like guesstimation stuff, and we're not at that point, and there's a lot of confusion with ad alternates and this and that.
Yes.
But I think we should work backwards, and this is the problem that happened in 2014. The contractors worked to a number, not this is what we need and this is what it's gonna cost. So what I'd like to see is the whole caboodle, what that cost for the whole thing with contingency, management, bricks and mortar, per square foot, I mean, the math you can do, and then work backwards maybe. But I think it's less confusing, and I think it'd be a better educated decision that the council makes based on, if you're not gonna build new, which everyone knows is better because of the cost, if you renovate 100%, this is what it costs, and then work back from there. That's what I think we need to work to.
So, now that we have a set of drawings, we have also a company that is an expert in building, say, and we have a whole team assembled. What we do is we set the budget, so we work on the budget. So we'll take the estimates, we'll take all these pieces. The only, of course, the variable is, the estimate is an estimate, so it's always going to have a caveat. Until it's bought out, it's an estimate. But things like the fee and the general conditions and stuff, those are a set percent, so that will be part of the contract. And then we do sort of like the below the line costs, and that is what I call the soft costs, which is the cost for the architect, the OPM, testing, any third-party inspections, commissioning, whatever we may need to add to this, because some things happen outside of the construction manager's purview. And then also, if there's any furniture and equipment, that, like the chairs, everything, that's not in the construction company's cost usually. So we put a comprehensive budget together, and then we present it to you. And that will be based on, it has to be based on something, and that something is that estimated value. So right now, if the drawings don't change, we'll do one more run on it, and that will be within a percent. For that, we have contingencies. That's for the unknowns. So typically, construction manager will carry a 5% contingency. That is like a construction contingency within their guaranteed maximum price, within their contract. Then we will also recommend to carry an owner's contingency, which is applied to anything that might come up. And I mean, depending on where we are in the budget, of course, the bigger the better, but anywhere, I've worked with anywhere from 3 to 15%, depending on the state, on type of project, type of building. 10% is probably a really comfortable one, but even 5 is a good, 5 to some is good.
In that 2-month pre-construction period, the CM would also be doing value engineering exercises?
Yes, they will
so
be
that
part of the
They'll be
team.
talking,
They will be part of, the process, and this is great because they can call their subs, they can actually give us real-time pricing rather than like the estimators. The estimators are good too, but the estimators don't have the same, they're not there building every day. They're good for check and balances though, so the estimators are very valuable on the architecture side.
So if our next steps are vote to affirm, authorize execution of the contract, and then we also need to talk about capitalization of project, do we need to have this budget conversation prior to voting?
well, by
Can-
default, we're going to have this budget conversation prior to voting because we can't vote on this tonight.
Okay, so realistically, what is the timeline? Because we've already experienced some significant delays, so I'd really like to expedite these conversations as quickly as possible, because I believe, based on some of our last presentations, that we were expecting construction to begin in Q1 of 2026, but this has also been delayed probably close to 2 months. So if we need to have the budget conversation first, we need to then vote, then authorize contract, also talk about capitalization. Can we start having those budget conversations as soon as next week's town? Well, we can't because it's not on the agenda.
We're having it tonight, aren't we?
No, we're not having, that's capitalization of fund, that's funding. She's referring to budget, or more of a definitive budget.
Yeah, their definitive budget, but then we're gonna talk about our end of it, so at least
Right.
we have an idea.
But we're saying that we need to better understand the budget, right? The chief just made a recommendation to kind of back into more of these figures to have more of a definitive understanding. Does that need to happen before we determine which firm we are going to affirm?
To say to, again, going with the schedule and referring back to the delays, I think the two should happen independently
Okay,
of each other. I would recommend to award a firm based on pre-construction. Obviously, they will stay for the whole project.
Mhm.
If the project, I don't think this is the case, but if the project would not to move forward, the town will only pay the pre-construction fee, right? That there's no project, there's no
Mhm.
payment. So there's no commitment, if you will. If it moves forward, then the construction manager is on board. So, but I think having a construction manager on board first is valuable because we can start utilizing them as our
Right.
team member to set that budget as most accurately as possible,
Mhm.
rather than rely just on us and the architect
Okay.
and the estimates that, we've received today.
okay.
So that would be my recommendation personally.
I would
as a
agree with that
professional.
recommendation.
I do think that concurrently, though, without delay, we should start looking into budget.
Yes.
And having those conversations and setting up the process. I know there may be a vote needed or this and this and this.
Mhm.
So what is that? What does it look like? I think we should start having those conversations and
Mhm.
presenting them to you.
Okay.
So would it be safe to say that the next meeting we have would be the, was it November 3rd?
Not on the agenda, though.
Yeah, I know. So then the second meeting in November, would that be safe to say that we could schedule something then and maybe have a little bit more information and maybe at the same time have like a new timeline? Like if the, like, here's this, and then if we go ahead with some sort of recommendation and vote on a construction manager, then what's the next steps and what does our timeline look like
Yep.
to get to where we need to be? So that way, because, I mean, everyone's referring to different timelines, but so much has really kind of happened that there were some delays, but it was really not something that was done intentionally. It was just delays between getting the, the proposals in and meeting and trying to get with everyone because of their schedules. So if we can kind of get that for the next meeting, or for the next, after you give us the what's the date, our second meeting in 17th?
Yeah.
So maybe we can do that on the 17th, and then from there, what we're looking at to go forward? Okay.
So November 17th, the vote will come back. Do we need to come back with the same presentation or we don't?
No, if you can
Okay.
just confirm the scope of the project from Signal Works.
The
And just so we can
462,
see
yeah.
the add alternate, so we all agree on them, because now it is a new council, so if we can look at everything, so we kind of all agree, I would assume if we're gonna do it, we should probably just do the whole project, but, I'm one person, so, maybe kind of see that also, and then that way everyone is all on the same page.
I can also I didn't want to do that for all four, it's a little bit more work. Not that I didn't want to do the work, but it's just doing it 4 times also is not very good to do. But if we say we take the parasol estimate and the numbers we know, instead of just putting a flat number of 15% that I put here for soft costs, we know what the costs are. We know our cost, we know the architect's cost. I can find out what previous commitments that already may have happened that already went into this project. And we can come up with a more accurate budget, based on the scope and the estimate that's here, we received. So I can definitely put that together and share it. It's enough time for us.
And
to do
hopefully
it.
it's less than 15%.
My concern with waiting
Well, that
until the
includes
17th is
furniture
that
and
we're just,
equipment.
we're like getting into the holidays.
It doesn't matter, we have a project, we need to keep moving.
No, I know,
mean-
but I would be open to a special meeting the second week of November. So we can vote, and then we can use maybe the following meeting to talk more about capitalization of funding, like just continue. This should be a topic on every agenda, every meeting. But I think this vote is really going to allow us to get the work going. And that's a month away. The 17th is a month away.
Looking at, so, okay,
wanna
so
do
there's
the
a 10th. I am not here on the 3rd, but I don't know if you can present the budget.
So would you say you're not around on the 3rd? Is that what you said?
I'm not here on the 3rd, I will not, that's the first one, I will
We
not be
can't have it
here.
anyway.
Yeah, so maybe the 10th?
The 10th I'm available, yes.
I would
Oh, wait, is it the
be open to
7th?
the 10th,
Why-
Yes, the
why
10th
you
I'm
say
here.
You can't have it on the 3rd.
because the agenda already went out.
No, the 3rd's not Monday.
Oh my
That's
God.
the 20th.
3rd is a Monday, I'm looking.
No.
Joanne,
she
you've been
thinks it's
sitting
this
there so
Monday.
quiet. You should have been like, Rebecca, you sound like an idiot. Okay, yeah, the 3rd.
I'm like,
Third.
we missed a half a month there.
But you
Yeah.
mentioned November 17th.
Right, because you were telling me the 3rd,
Okay,
but the
Sorry.
3rd is not
I stand
Monday,
corrected.
so,
I'm pregnant. Leave me alone.
yeah.
Um,
so maybe
okay, let's do the 3rd.
So
Yeah.
can we, but you're not around, Inga?
I'm away, unfortunately,
Would we
yes.
do the vote on the 3rd or budget?
Sounds like vote.
Yeah,
We can do the vote
Right.
on the 3rd, and then maybe we can do the 10th,
Just not that Brian is not capable, but because we work together. I would like to be here for the budget discussion.
Oh, yeah, so can we do the budget piece of it on the 10th?
Yeah.
Yes, I can be there for budget on the 10th.
Is that all right with everyone else? John? All right.
So just so I'm clear, what is the budget piece of it? If we vote to move forward with your recommendation for a CM on the 3rd, they start their pre-construction process, which is about 2 months' worth of time, which at the end, ultimately, we end up with our GMP. We know what the number is, as close as we're going to know. What are we, to talk about the difference between Signal Works and where we're at? Is that for the 10th? Like, what is this discussion?
I think the budget conversation is to have a better understanding of what the cost of the project will be with all of the associated items, and then the chief's request to have more of a definitive itemized understanding with all of the ad alternates. So we'll have more of a comprehensive budget theoretically on the 10th. We can then walk away from that conversation, and then on the 17th, I think that we should talk about capitalization of funding, because we need to understand what the budget is so we can say, is it general fund? Is it hybrid with the bond? Is it 100% bond? We can't make that decision until we have an understanding of our comprehensive budget.
And the issue is if there's a portion of this project or all the project that's funded through a bond, and if we want to be able to have this go to a special election in February, November 17th, we have to have a bond ordinance, which means we have to advertise for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to also keep in mind the critical path issue.
Right.
I'm not worried about the construction in the first quarter of 2026. That's easy. I'm more concerned about us getting our money in place. As long as we pass the bond ordinance, and the bond ordinance is submitted to the voters and they approve, then we can go ahead and spend our own money in advance and we can get reimbursed. That's not a problem. But I'm concerned about when we're going to go to the voters. Because until that happens, we don't have money. We don't have the debt capital for this.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't spend money out of our general fund in anticipation of that, because we would be in violation of IRS laws.
Mm-hmm.
So we need the bond ordinance passed first.
So we can use the 17th, November 17th, have more of a.
But if we do that, we're going to have to advertise for a bond ordinance, because it's an ordinance, so we need to advertise 3 weeks in advance.
So November 17th would be the 3rd week, so we'd have to basically advertise next week.
Yeah. Which means the whole conversation. I don't believe the bond ordinance, I'll have to double check. You have a draft
Yes.
in your package. I assume that bond ordinance references a number that we're going to the voters for, so it does beg the bigger question: how are you going to pay for this project? Is it going to be all debt, or is it going to be a portion debt cash? I mean, that's I think a very important conversation.
Yeah. So we can have that conversation next, like right now.
But you can't make a decision tonight on
Right.
anything,
No, I
just a
understand.
conversation.
We can be informed. Okay.
May I ask a question? Is there no meeting on the 27th or the 20th?
The 20th is a meeting.
Or there's a meeting on the 20th? Is it too late to put the recommendation?
Yeah, we already have our packet for Monday.
Okay, that's fine, okay,
Yeah.
understood.
I mean, we could certainly meet on the 27th and vote if everybody's available, instead of waiting until the 3rd and then the 10th. I mean, I feel like the recommendations that were provided are very clear. I just think I don't know why we can't necessarily make a decision tonight, but we can't make the decision tonight. But we have the information required.
That's fine, we can be available.
I imagine it could be a 15-minute meeting to just come in and vote. How does everybody feel about that?
I don't know if I can make the 27th.
Okay.
She's talking October 27th.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a project at work that I don't know when I'll be actually out of work, so.
Okay, so we'll vote on the 3rd.
So I have a question regarding procedure. It does say discussion, vote, or other action. So why can't we vote?
If I can clarify this, there was a snafu as it relates to the posting of this meeting. This meeting was posted an hour and 15 minutes after the deadline. So technically, we are not in compliance with the Open Meetings Act right now. We talked to our solicitor about this, and we said as long as we're not taking any votes, then we're fine. I mean, the AG theoretically could come back and slap our hand for this, but it's nothing, it's nothing devious. And if no votes were taken, no harm done. So that's why we're doing that. I was hoping that we would have gotten a vote tonight in favor of the selection, but we just can't do that. Clear as mud?
Yeah, got it. All right, so we're doing it on November 3rd, right? And then we have to have a special meeting on the 10th, is that what we said?
It's for a comprehensive budget overview, and then we can have our bond ordinance public hearing on the 17th.
If we put it out to advertising like next week.
Mhm. But our next agenda item can help to inform some of that timeline.
On the 17th is the bond ordinance? Is that
Budget overview.
budget overview? On the 10th is a budget overview.
The 10th is the comprehensive budget overview. The 17th would be the bond ordinance, dependent upon our next agenda item.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item is discussion by council vote or other action on funding public safety complex town administrator.
Yeah, in your package is a memorandum that I had prepared working with the town council president. This memorandum is not a specific recommendation as much as it sort of frames the capitalization of this project. So it basically shows you how much debt that we have and how we're paying it off, and quite frankly, we're paying off debt very quickly now. And I think it's fiscal year 2027, our debt carry costs are going down by, I think it's close to 1.3 or 1.4 million dollars. So the essence of that is to say that clearly we have the capacity easily to borrow on this project and still be more than half below where we currently are in our debt carry cost. I'm not saying that we bond 100% of this project. I'm just trying to show you the extremes. I did basically throw in my own little philosophical opinion on that, which I just can't help myself. And that is that sound financial management necessitates that you don't finance long-term capital assets with cash. It's not good financial planning. That doesn't mean you have to borrow 100% of it. There could be a hybrid model, but that was something it's the only thing I put in there that was opinionated. And then from there, I say, okay, well, there was one typo in there, but I think a lot of those analysis is based on a $6 million bond. At one point it says 7, it's a $6 million bond. And it shows you what the cost would be on that. I even did some calculations. I've written down the notes here as to what a $7 million bond would be, and then go out and outline the process that we would have to follow to go out to a bond on this. I spoke to our bond counsel. We do not have to go to the General Assembly for authorization to borrow. We can do a bond ordinance, and I outlined the process to do that. And the idea was if we get an approval on the 17th, we can be out in February for a special election where the voters can vote on this. And if the bond is written in the right way, the ordinance is written in the right way, we can go ahead once that bond, if it's approved, we can go back and spend our own general fund if we want to get the project wrapped up really quick, and we can get reimbursed out of the bond. out of our unrestricted fund balance. So the key here is that there's going to have to be, in my humble opinion, there has to be some debt on this project. It can't be just cash. The question is, what's the balance? Do we bond 100% of that and leave all the cash we have in our reserves now? Do we bond, all but $3 million and take the rest out of our unrestricted fund balance? I did talk to our fiscal advisor, who currently said that we could actually, and some may disagree with this, I'm just going on what our fiscal advisor said, we could take $3.5 million or more out of our fund balance without impacting the town's bond rating at all. So we're in a good cash position. We are in a good debt position because we're paying a lot of debt off really quickly. So we could do this without any impact on the taxpayers, notwithstanding any other potential fiscal demands that we have, because we don't know what the state budget's going to be like this coming year, just based on current status.
So what is the actual total of our general fund right now?
I put that in the memorandum, Council President.
10.8.
10.8.
Yeah, currently, I'm working on that issue. Let me just find my memorandum here. Here we go.
And these numbers in the memo, the town bond and the federal grant, are those actual balances that
I think it's a little less now.
Okay.
Because we've been spending some money for soft costs in this project right now. I can get an updated figure on that. So total unrestricted fund balance as of our end of our previous fiscal year was $9.9 million. I'm projecting that's going to go up to about 10.8. Right now, I'm working on we have the numbers, and we're going to have to come back to council and recommend as to how much should be put into unrestricted fund balance and how much should be dedicated to reserve capital. I'm working on those numbers right now, but about $10.8 million we have in cash. And that doesn't include our restricted fund balance of about $1 million.
So that's obviously pretty healthy, and then with the $1
Yeah.
million that we have in the fund, so we could potentially be looking at 4.5 that we have liquid and only having to go out to bond for the difference.
You could.
I mean,
You could do that.
I mean, that's money already taxed by the,
Hmm?
so it's just sitting there doing nothing in the. so-
Yep. And I'm not even going to say that because it's not appropriate at this
Go
video.
ahead, say it.
Well, no, I was going to say, said and I've made this, I've made this point on numerous occasions with the co-chairs of the Hollowell Committee. I've effectively said that we need to work on those numbers, but the bottom line is nothing's going to happen until we make a decision of the public safety complex.
Yeah, this is
That's the big
something that
issue. We
has
have to do this
happen.
project. And if, theoretically, if the council decided, hey, given our fiscal position, let's go out and borrow almost all of it. Well, what that does is it leaves you additional cash on your unrestricted fund that you could throw in a little bit of money into Hollowell if you want to get that project, whatever the final project cost is, over the finish line. Or you may say, look, this project's more important right now. We don't want to borrow all that. We're willing to put some cash on the table. And it's really coming up to decisions to how much cash you want to put on the table.
Yeah. I mean, we need to get this passed, so we can't, we don't want to go back out there with a huge number.
No, but keep in mind, and notwithstanding the whole conversation about, new construction versus, I mean, that ship has sailed. The bottom line is, the project costs we're at right now is half of what they would have been, new
Right,
construction.
and Sitting
So-
at over 4.5 million, if the project comes up, say 10, I
Hmm.
mean, if that's what we go out for
Yeah.
as the difference, that's a lot more feasible.
Yeah,
than-
absolutely.
Okay.
And I think the key is that when that decision is made, we're going to have to be very clear and concise as to how we communicate this to the taxpayers, and including probably having a work session, bring them in so they can understand the realities on this project. I think communication in a unified way is critical for this to get past the finish line.
Right.
My biggest concern is simply, not to be hyperbole here, but we don't got a choice. This project has got to get done.
Right.
It's an embarrassment.
Is there any way we could line up having the fiscal advisor and even potentially
Yes,
the bond
absolutely.
counselor at the November 3rd meeting so we can better understand?
I will reach out to him to see if he's available for that, but I think that would be a good idea, especially when we raise the question of bond rating sensitivities.
Right.
Some people will disagree with what he's going to say because we have the same bond rating that we had 5 years ago, and we had a lot more debt. So why is this a problem? But I think he needs to be here to answer questions for transparency reasons. So I will reach out to him to make sure he can attend.
And I don't know if this is feasible. I just have a vision of what this could look like in my head. But it's, if our three options are 100% general fund, hybrid of general and bond, 100% bond, I'd love to be able to finagle the numbers and see how the tax rate might change, see how, I know.
It's not going to change.
I know,
However,
based on your memo,
I will point out one thing, though, on that. There are some who think that arbitrage is voodoo. It's not voodoo. Our current return on invested capital is running at 4%. Our cost to borrow prior to the Federal Reserve's last actions, and they're going to probably do 2 more rate cuts by the end of this year, our cost to borrow is 4.125. We have a 0.125 negative arbitrage to borrow, which is ridiculously low. And that may actually even go lower than that. So it's a good market to borrow. But with that being said, and people don't understand what that means, but what it means is simply, if I take 100% of the project cash and fund this project, what's my cost of capital? It's 4%. That's my lost investment money. If I leave the money in the bank and I'm earning 4% and I borrow at 4.125%, what's my real cost of funds? It's 0.125%. So it's actually attractive. It doesn't speak to the overall question, is how much debt are people comfortable with?
Right.
And that's I think what, Council President, you're addressing. But that's the conversation we have to have as to what's the magic number that
Right.
makes everybody comfortable.
Right, yeah, I think having a side-by-side and being able to manipulate the numbers, not just for my benefit selfishly, but I think for our constituents to really see what is informing our decisions, to have those concrete
Yep.
numbers, I think would be very helpful.
Yep.
I have a question. So, we have received over the past, 6-7 months, significant stacks of paper regarding work being done by Rhode Island Energy in town. And I know in the past, they've paid, good amount of money in property tax, I guess. With what they're looking to do we have any idea what our potential, property tax from Rhode Island Energy is
We
going to
could
be?
do a guesstimate on that. Understand, though, that
It's temporary.
it's temporary and it can't be dedicated to this project.
No, I wasn't
Yeah.
going there. I was going, so,
Just like a supplement.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
it seems like next year, we probably will come up short with school funding because
Without
we're
a,
not going to get.
without
the
a
$1.5
question,
again.
without a question.
So does, that money kick in at that time? Just, another option to say.
Well, we
okay,
have another opportunity here, and that is that currently on the police station's property is a monopole. That monopole is basically owned by Crown Castle. We started digging into that and found out that that lease on that monopole terminates December this year. We reached out to Crown Castle and said, okay, guys, what do you want to do? If not, you're going to take it down. And they said, oh, no, we want to renew our lease. So I have a conference call with Crown Castle next week. So what we signed a deal with Crown Castle on, it wasn't them originally. It was Sprint originally. The town took like $145,000 for that over a 20-year deal. It was not a good deal. There's a lot of money sitting there. If they have 3 carriers on that pole, you know, the typical rule of thumb is it's $2,500 to $3,500 per carrier per month on a 20-year deal. So we could potentially either look at that as a revenue stream for the next 20 years, has to still be negotiated, or we can negotiate a discounted buyout and take the money all up front and apply it to this project. So that's another thing, that's a material amount of capital that's going to sit there if they want to do this project. I mean, they want to use that pole. So that's sort of unfound money that we're working on right now. Could just go into the general fund, that's fine. But the point is that's more revenue coming in. Rhode Island Energy and what's going on there is more money coming in. And we've quite frankly got a lot of stuff that's on the table right now that are going through the planning process, including a recent project that was approved. So things are looking from an overall tax base pretty healthy, notwithstanding that we have a 4% levy cap.
So it seems like a good time, granted, we're talking about the police station, but it seems like looking at numbers, we have the potential to have 2 projects completed in 2 years. If we
Absolutely.
get the buy-in from the town, you know, obviously the police station, you know, the more things been going on for far too long, you know, need to get this done. But if, you know, we don't get that $1.5 million, we do get the $1.5 million from Senator Reed
Yep.
for the multi-generation facility.
And we've got,
Obviously,
and I got a
things
couple
with the
more things that we're kicking around on that too.
fundraising opportunities, so maybe the delta there shrinks. I know, you know, the number needs to be looked at further, and obviously when it goes out to bid, the number can, you know, either go up, down, whatever, that can get tightened up, but, it just, you know, maybe, you know, we look at using some of the fund balance for that, some of the fund balance for the police station and bonding the difference, so that, you know, in the 2 years, we have both projects.
Sometimes you can say you're super smart, and other
Thank you.
times you can say you're just dumb lucky. I would rather have these 2 projects go to market right now, over the next 12 months, than I would have had it going to market 2 years ago. I think we're in a much better position. And with the state kind of, depending on who you listen to, on the edge of a recession, that's good too in terms of capitalizing this project.
If we're going to have more of a conversation around options and vote on November 3rd, I think it's really important that we communicate this to the public. My concern is that if the town council, based on the information that's provided during our November 3rd meeting, does decide that this needs to go out to bond, if constituents don't understand and it doesn't get voted, then we have to either rely upon 100% general fund or grants.
Or the
So-
project doesn't happen.
Or right, so I think there needs to be a communication campaign around the November 3rd meeting, to ensure that the public is aware, so that they can make informed decisions when this does go
Yep.
to vote, potentially.
I agree.
Okay.
I think it's important, though, that we make it clear that that's not, that Plan B is not even an option. We're never, that should not even be an option that we would fund it 100% in cash.
But what's the other option if it doesn't get voted?
If
It won't happen.
Right, then it doesn't happen.
You can't take $8+ million out of your unrestricted fund balance. That will be putting a gun to your head. So unfortunately, it won't happen, which is why it is really important that the town, as you said, communicates in a very clear, understandable way in unison
Yeah.
that we that this is critical for the town. It's a project at half the cost of what was originally presented to you. We've listened to you. We've come back with a more affordable option using an existing building. And quite frankly, we'll show with the numbers, will have no impact on your taxes. And I think if we're effective to do that and be very transparent and professional in that approach, I have enough faith in the voters of this town that they'll support that.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, to everybody's point, in the event we do determine that it's, whether it's 100% bond or hybrid, if the bond is, if it's a no vote, then this is the amount of money that we could take out of general fund, and this is what it's actually going to fund in the project. So we can have a better understanding of like, okay, if we can only take out 4 million from general fund, then we're only going to get this. So I think we need to just be very clear and like with the implications of our decisions. The other thing that I would say too is that I'm sure we're going to get the question, we already took out a bond on this, where did the money go?
Yep.
So I think we also need to be prepared to answer those questions.
I agree 100%.
Wow, we're agreeing a lot tonight.
I know.
That's weird.
So one of us is wrong.
So yeah, I just think we need to be prepared to answer those questions.
I think it has to be more of an all or nothing approach, because if you, it is, believe me, from what I've seen at the last one, when we tried to get the new station, if you tell people, well, either we're gonna bond for the whole thing, and if it's a no vote, then we're gonna just do this $4 million worth of work. That could be a deal
Okay.
breaker right
I see
there.
what
That
you're
could kill the whole.
Yeah, but I think you to say that it may be on the mind of people, so you have to anticipate what they're going to think, but say, but a $4 million is not going to get your project. We can't do it for $4 million. We can't even come up with a core project that's
right.
even
So it's
usable
all or
by the
nothing.
police department.
Right.
It's all or nothing.
So why would we waste our money doing that?
You want to give people the option saying, well, you either vote for the
No,
bond
we're
or
not-
you give $4 million out
We're
of our
not
thing.
giving them the option. We're gonna, if everyone decides that we wanna go hybrid, then the bond that goes out is for this amount of money to fund the project.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Either the bond passes and you do the project, or it doesn't pass and nothing happens.
But we have to do somewhere. We would have to do whatever $5 million gets us.
And I'm not really sure,
don't
based
think
on the
that's-
numbers, the $5 million is going to get you anything.
But at least it would do, I mean, it would do
The-
something.
The builder was shaking his head no.
No,
It would,
that's why it's important to get the information.
Go through significant redesign, right? It would take a significant effort to get back to $5 million, to get it open line.
It's gonna be more money, more time.
Yeah.
That's true.
well,
It's time. It will take more time.
yeah, but this is a lot different going out for a $22 million bond versus.
18, it was an 18, wasn't it?
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
the final cost at the end
it
is
is-
like 22.
it is a big
but-
difference, and that's why
Well,
that's why I say, look at, I mean, we always have to look at the worst-case scenarios. No question about it.
And the reality is, so if it's 6 million, you have the potential, granted, I don't think the projects need to be tied together, but you have the potential to have 2 projects at the end, as opposed to just one project at 3 times the cost. I don't think we tie them together.
No.
But
But-
I think part of the pitch is that, hey, you know, we do this bond, we need this police station. It allows us to keep some money to set aside, and it gets us to the multi-generational facility.
I like that.
Fundraise.
Exactly. You bond the police station, you give the extra money to that project. You can
I
do both
disagree,
projects.
because-
You're well under what every other municipality pays for buildings.
Because you know what, just what Rebecca said, we already had one bond, and people are gonna say, where is it
As long as
now?
you're in agreement.
Now
All,
we're
you
gonna
have
do
to
it.
be in agreement. You were in agreement last time. And you
No,
have to publicly,
that
the
wasn't.
PR has to be all together, the town administrator, myself, the town council. This is what you want, no questions asked. That's why I think soup to nuts, what the building needs and what the money is, and put it out there. And you have to support it.
But that still begs the other question, though, and that is simply, at what level of debt? So do you do the 100% debt for this building? Or do you say, look, we're not going to borrow, I'm looking at optics here. we're not going to do 100% of debt for the public safety complex. We're willing to put some of our unrestricted cash balance, X amount. So they're not thinking that we're borrowing the whole thing just for that project. And that still leaves enough money on the other side if we need to get Hollowell across the line. I think there's some optics advantages to not doing 100% and just doing some of our own cash. As you said, this is taxpayers' money.
Right,
It's money they've been taxed on. So let's use it.
right.
But let's use it responsibly, that's all.
More to come on November 3rd.
I
For a
agree.
motion to adjourn, you done?
No, I just want to be very clear that we really need to have this information buttoned up to be able to have informed conversations. And like Chief said, like, we need to be a unified front. Like, we really need to, like, we need to communicate this accordingly to the public. We need to have all of this information lined up so that we can not only make an informed decision, but our constituents can understand the implications of the decisions and they can be bought into it. Because what happens is we vacillate a lot. Like, we make a decision on a project, but then we vacillate and we talk about alternatives. And then I feel like we lose the engagement and the excitement of the public. And when we lose that, then we continue to circulate these conversations and elongate timelines sometimes.
It's confusing.
It
Yes,
is.
it can be very confusing.
See, I'm seeing, believe it or not, I am seeing already a unified front. It's just, we're just in disagreement of the exact how.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
think that
That's your decision.
fundamentally, I think we're all in agreement here.
Yeah, no, I do too, but, and I think November 3rd, we can all vote on this and,
But we'll start generating some stuff internally.
okay.
And start to send it out as it goes individually to each one of you, just to take a look at. No conversations together on this. It's just one-on-one between me and you. And just to tee it up so you can start giving us feedback. What more do you need? What do you think we're missing on this analysis? To feel comfortable communicating this to the public. We can't make this too complicated.
No,
I mean, I'm not saying the public is dumb. I'm simply saying this is finance. We have to be very clear and concise as to what this means.
yeah.
And I think the voters understand that. But I think we have to play up the real issues here. Understanding that there is that bugaboo out there about previous actions, okay? But also, this is half the cost, all right? We heard what you said. In a very resounding way, we heard what you said. And this is how we've responded. And I think that's very positive.
Thank you. Anything else? All set? All set? All right, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Uh,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.